Hello. What if I just did that the whole video, just like froze like that? What would you do? We're going to talk about T20 cricket, the survival of Test cricket. Martin Snedden from New Zealand works on the ICC board, and he came up with a bunch of suggestions last year. And I guess the papers have gotten out, or they've talked to some people. And so we have more details on what was said, what was proposed, and basically the ICC, turned their noses up at these ideas. I think they're really good ideas. It needs to be settled right now, and it doesn't look like ICC wants to do anything about that. So let's get into it. So this was an article in Inside Sport that I found saying ICC board gives cold shoulder to dedicated T20 windows proposal, and it was spearheaded by former New Zealand cricket chairman Martin Snedden, aimed to address the growing concerns about international cricket's diminishing space due to the proliferation of T20 leagues. I can read, I promise you. And there was also an article in the Sydney Morning Herald. Maybe if you're from Australia, you saw it. It said the subcommittee's research was presented to the ICC board as its annual conference in Durban in July of last year. But we're just getting details about it right now. It says, according to several eyewitnesses speaking on the condition of anonymity, I got that on the first try. Anonymity. Try, it's a big word. Write it down. Because ICC board discussions are confidential, the project generated virtually zero constructive discussion of the future. Oh, that hurts so much to read about things like that. Like they're not taking it seriously from the get-go. Like you try all this work, and then they don't even like address it, consider it. So someone said they basically rolled their eyes and ignored it. Ugh. So there were a lot of good themes. So they're proposing additional windows for the calendar for T20 leagues other than the IPL. So having a dedicated window. And so if you watch rugby, if you watch soccer, especially, they have dedicated windows, like two of them for international competitions. And they have domestic seasons and international seasons. So I think they're willing to share and have one season for IPL and then another, dedicated season for other leagues. Because it really has to happen, because if we're going to look at some of the scheduling here, it's absolutely ridiculous. And you have players playing for 5 different leagues in a season. I mean, if you look at Glenn Maxwell here in 2023, plays for Warwickshire. What that is in first class cricket. He also played for the London Spirit, the Royal Challengers Bangalore, Lancashire, Yorkshire. Like, look at all these teams. And he still plays for Victoria as the first class team and the Melbourne Stars. 3 teams they present there in addition to Australia. That is ridiculous, man. How can any fan feel like that player belongs to their team? So it also mentioned the recognition to improve World Test Championship point system, possibly with 2 divisions or 2 conferences of 6 test teams. And if you look at the World Test Championship, this thing is an absolute mess. Look at this. None of these are even. So this team, Bangladesh, can be on there with just 2 games played, with Sri Lanka as well. And then you have some teams like Australia playing 10. What does this mean? It is absolutely confusing. You have deductions like 10 points. I mean, I'm glad it's Australia getting deducted. But why? Okay, so Australia was deducted 10 points for a slow over rate in the 4th test against England. But why is it 10 points and not 2 points? That is just, I hate it. I hate looking at that thing. It makes no sense. Why don't all teams play the same amount of games? They also recommended tighter ODI structures with qualifying for both World Cups and Champions Trophy over 2-year cycles, which I like the qualifying that they have for World Cup right now. I have no complaints. And the Champions Trophy is too small, but so be it. I like that. I don't think they should change that, honestly. But they also suggested that a 40-over ODI format would work better in the current day. First World Cup matches were played with 60 overs. How do you feel about that? Yeah, I like the 50 overs. I think you're going to keep shortening the game to like 60 overs to 50 overs to 40 overs, and it's just going to be like down to 20 overs. That's what we got. And this is the last and maybe most important thing. It said concerns about a complete lack of context for T20 international matches. And I mean, look at this. I was watching Australia versus New Zealand. All those games drove me absolutely nuts. But look at this. Why does this matter? So Australia won 3 out of the 3 games. Ugh. But like, who cares? Like, what do they win? Do they win anything? Is it part of any larger championship? Is it just for practice? Are they tests, T20 internationals? Like, what does this, why does this matter? What is this for? There's no context for this. And I just want to talk about this last thing. This is the T20 league calendar from last year, and I didn't have time to make my own. I'm sure there's other things you could put in here. They missed Major League Cricket. Obviously, maybe their pitcher was too big, because it's such an important tournament. But look at this mess. So in January, you have Bangladesh, Big Bash League, South Africa, United Arab Emirates. Then in February, they spelled February wrong. You have Pakistani Super League. Then you have the IPL, which like takes precedence over everything. You're also forgetting to add Women's Premier League in there too. And then you have Major League Cricket in July. That's going to overlap with the 100, and that's also going to overlap with the Lanka Premier League in 2024. You have the 100 and the 60 and the global GT20. I forget what that's, Global Tournament 20. That's Canada. Don't miss that one. That's important. I know it's only 3 weeks, but it's really important. Then you have the Caribbean T20, Big Bash League, Lanka Premier League. Like, dude, there are so many leagues and they're all spread out through the calendar. You have to take care of that. So I think that's the biggest thing, overall that should be taken care of, because there are just too many leagues spread out over all year. There's no context. We don't know why we care. We watch them because, it's fun, but we need them at the same time, at least non-IPL leagues at the same time, to bring more context, to make a potential champions league for these leagues. There's a lot you can do, but they need to work more closely together, because right now that's an absolute mess. And it's only going to destroy Test cricket even further. It would be nice if we just had Test cricket in a certain month, or 2 months out of the year. Because look, we have Test cricket here. What do we have? Pakistani Super League here. We have the Cricket World Cup. Okay, that's understandable. The Marsh Cup. We have the, Bangladesh Premier League. What is that? Like, there's just too much cricket to follow. If it was all T20s at one time, it would be a lot easier to follow. So that's, I think, the big takeaway that I get. Make T20s 6 months out of the year, 8 months out of the year. I know people are going to hate that, but like, what do you think? T20s in a certain months out of the year, and then tests just 2 months out of the year, and then ODIs every other year. That's what I think would work best. I love ODIs, but I talk about that a lot. What do you guys think? Leave a comment in the description, like and subscribe. And there is one more thing I want to tell you really quick.